Howdy, 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 my name's Untitled and welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. Today we're going to be starting with the Red Light Enforcement module because it's Halloween! Today's date is 10/31 and so is the first entry we're doing for the day. I did that on purpose, I'm glad I succeeded. I almost didn't succeed because it's raining and thunderstorming today, so... well, it's safe. 10/31 is to be kept in a secure storage locker at site blank. It may be removed for experimentation, but must be returned set to off, and with 2 attached to the side with adhesive tape. Okay then. 10/31 is a heavy-duty weatherproof ABS plastic box measuring 20 by 15 by 5 centimeters, weighing 770 grams and colored mid-gray. The box is sealed shut. Screws are visible in deep shafts at each corner, but the screw heads appear to have been reamed out to prevent extraction. Sorry. A grooved circular metal strap and associated tightening mechanism, Jubilee clip, is attached to the center of one 20 by 15 side, and a printed vinyl label is affixed to the opposite side. The label identifies the box as blank LTD Red Light Enforcement Module. And what is that? It has been traced through company's house and contacted by Foundation Front Organization. They claim to never have produced such a device and that they are in fact a fashion clothing manufacturer. It gives instructions for attaching the box to a traffic light pole, warns the intruder, warns that the item is tamper-proof. Where did I get the word intruder from? Okay, next line. Warns that the item is tamper-proof, do not attempt to open. Accompanied by an iconic representation of an intruder being data expunged. Below the label is a keyhole, around which are 3 labeled settings, off, enforce, and mark. 2 is a key that fits in the keyhole on 10/31. It appears to have no special properties and has been successfully copied by a Foundation locksmith using standard techniques. It does not appear to be possible to open the box using the key. 10/31 appears to be inert, unless it is A, attached to a traffic light pole with lights actively operating in a sequence including red and green phases, in the manner described on the label, and B, set to enforce or mark using 2. See the attached logs for more information on the item's effects. Looks like the logs are there. It should be noted that 10/31 does not require, indeed has no connections for, any power or other connection, and has not been observed to actually do anything itself, although the effects noted in the test log below are clearly caused by its presence and the position of its keyway. There are no lamps or other indicators on the box. How its effects are caused is currently unknown. It was retrieved by Agent Blank from a roadside traffic location. Where do I keep getting these extra words from? Roadside location in southwest blank UK on blankety blank blank. Let's assume it was Halloween 1972. After analysis of road traffic accident data revealed the recent very sudden formation of an accident black spot. 2 have been left in the keyway of 10/31. Testing log 1. Testing was carried out at research site blank. I also don't know why I keep yawning when I got a good amount of sleep. I apologize. A traffic signal was installed at a suitable position in the car park, programmed with a simple 30-second green-red sequence, and 10/31 was installed on the same pole according to its attached instructions. A white line was painted across the road between the pole, beside the pole, and D-class subjects were ordered to drive a vehicle across the line. Date: blank blank blank. The first subject, key setting off. They were in a hatchback, 1.1L, I assume that's how the gas tank? I don't know Carfax. Show me the Carfax. Speed, 30 kilometers per hour. Vehicle reached a line during green phase, result no effect. Subject stopped vehicle 14 meters beyond the line, further instructions. Same person, next test, same vehicle. They reached the line during red phase, no effect. Vehicle stopped 12 meters beyond the line, further instruction. This time it's the same person, but the key is set to enforce. The vehicle reached the green line, reached the white line during the green phase, nothing happened. Next test, they reached the line during red. Vehicle suddenly halted at the line as if in collision with a fixed object. Airbag deployed. Subject suffered bruising to chest due to seatbelt and reported feeling shaken. Full with the vehicle front bumper crushed, little other damage to vehicle. New test, new person, enforce, front bumper crossed line 0.2 seconds before the start of red phase. Vehicle still crossing line at the red phase. No effect. Vehicle stopped 17 meters for further instructions. Same person, next test, 50 kilometers per hour. Crossed the line during red phase. Upon crossing the line, front tires immediately deflated with a loud bang, causing the subject to lose control. Vehicle halted 27 meters past the line, facing sideways relative to the direction of travel. Subject physically unhurt, but claimed to be out of sorts. Next person, a bicycle. Oh, this is going to go terribly. 15 kilometers. Reached line during red phase. Upon crossing line, front wheel became solidly fixed to the road surface. Subject flung over handlebars and suffered bruising and minor cuts on impact with road surface. The bicycle remained upright with wheel fixed in position. The bicycle could be rotated around the fixed wheel. 5 seconds before the red phase ended, wheel became free to move and bicycle fell to road surface. No damage discovered to road surface, tire, or wheel at point of adhesion. Okay, next person. A motorcycle, 40 kilometers per hour. When crossed the line, the chain broke. Subject reported momentary loss of control, but was able to bring the machine to a halt 8 meters beyond the line, physically unhurt. They went back to subject 3880 for some reason. The vehicle reached the red line during the red phase. As the vehicle crossed the line, horizontal red stripes, oh, they set it to mark. Horizontal red stripes, 23 centimeters wide, appeared along both left and right sides of the vehicle, 80 centimeters above ground level, as a spray painted by a stationary agent while the vehicle was in motion. Later examination showed no evidence of an extra layer of paint having been added. The original paintwork color seemed to have been altered. Removal of the stripes is estimated to require a full respray of the affected panels. They tried mark with the motorcycle. Red stripes, they did the same thing. Where the stripe crossed the subject's leg, the color change appeared on the clothing. And where not covered, skin. Subject screamed as the color change occurred. Subject later reported that pain had occurred in the affected area and had disappeared as quickly as it had appeared. Affected areas of the subject's skin have become a uniform bright red color matching the stripe on the vehicle. Washing with soap and water does not affect coloration. Study of skin biopsies is recommended to determine how the change has been affected. I'm surprised they didn't just hack his leg off to see if it went to the bone. It sounds like the kind of thing they'd do. Next up is the prediction clock. It was safe, but not anymore. Also, it looks like this line right here leads to a completely different SCP. 1032 is to be stored in a high-value inanimate items cell at Sector 19. One unarmed guard is to be posted inside the cell at all times to prevent tampering, which is just prevent SCP-2305. 1032 is to be monitored at all times by a high-speed camera, fitted with a macro lens capable of no less than 20 times magnification, or greater as necessary to ensure that all text on the hands is legible. Recent photos, zoom not available. There's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hands on this clock, from the looks of it. The footage from this camera is to be searched daily for any instances of any hand passing the 12 o'clock position. Midnight events, see description. After each midnight event, the new text for the hand involved must be recorded, and its current speed and estimated time to midnight calculated. 1032 is a silver alarm clock of unknown make and origin. The clock is made from silver, plastic, and glass, and bears 22 hands of various sizes and shapes. Okay, so yeah, like I said, I counted 10, I counted wrong. The movement of 1032's hands do not measure the passage of time. Each hand instead measures the time until the end of an ongoing event or the destruction of an extant entity. White text on the front of each hand, in sizes ranging from barely legible to microscopic, describes the event to be measured by that hand. When one of 1032's hands reaches the 12 o'clock position, several events occur simultaneously, the combination of which is referred to as a midnight event. First, the entity or event or entity currently written on the hands ends or is destroyed. Second, the text on the hand spontaneously changes to describe a new event or entity, which need not bear any relation to the previous one. Third, the hand's rotational velocity changes. To date, 1032 has never been wrong. Every event appearing on its hands has ended precisely at the moment of the corresponding midnight event. It has accurately predicted the deaths of over blank thousand individual organisms, the fall of blank governments, the dissolution of blank hundred major agencies and institutions, the death of a language, and the beginning of the blank blank. Since any given hand's speed remains constant at all times except during midnight events, the time to the end of any entity measured by one of the object's hands can be predicted precisely. The hands are designated SCP-1032-1 through 22 in order of size from smallest to largest. The following is a list of 1032's hands and their current inscriptions. A full log of all relevant inscriptions can be found at File Access Restricted. Okay, the first hand, It rotates too fast to have a constant measurement. There's no predicted date. Notes: is only recorded text to date has been one of the three following: a thought, a sound, or a sensation. Current text for the second hand: the worst thing that will ever happen to anybody. 2 moves too slowly to measure. Due to the vagueness of this inscription and the impossibility of calculating the time until this next midnight event, no useful information is available. 3 used to say, my safe classification, predicted date, February 6, 2012. Notes: Dr. Gunther has suggested that since 1032 shows signs of self-awareness, it should be promoted to a Euclid class threat. This proposal is scheduled for review on the 2nd of June, 2012. Current text: my Euclid classification. September, or that may be January then. January the 9th, 2015. Notes: as 1032 has yet to manifest any properties warranting a Keter classification, Dr. Edison has proposed that it should be demoted to safe. This proposal is scheduled for review on the 9th of January, 2015. Yes, blindly following this prediction isn't very productive, especially when it's probably just going to make us change it back anyway, but the way these things usually work, if we don't demote it, it might start doing things that force us to make it Keter. We have enough of those things on our hands, thank you very much. Hand number 4, the universe. Predicted date, data expunged. It is unknown whether this refers to the actual end of our universe, to the end of all entities that could be referred to as universes, or merely the end of the concept of universality. Hand 5, a failed infomercial. 5 moves very quickly, cycling 2 to 5 times per day. To date, it has never displayed any other inscriptions. 6. Freedom of the press. May 16th, 2073. It does not specify the country or countries whose freedom of the press will end. 7. Humor. March 22nd, 2052. 8. The use of the phrase, you can say that again. March 22nd, 2267. Hand number 9. Hostilities between the nations of Africa. Predicted date, date expunged. As 1032 has often predicted violent or disturbing events using apparently harmless phrases, this description is considered equally likely to predict peace in Africa or the destruction of the continent. Hand 10. Jason W. Taylor Jr.'s sister's daughter. October 14th, 2029. To date, all inscriptions on 10 have described individual human beings. These people are usually difficult or impossible to identify and locate. On April the 12th, 2011, however, 10 predicted the death of D56342, a D-class subject then assigned to 1032. 5 minutes before his predicted death, the subject was sealed in an airtight steel chamber with 2 guards. All 3 were equipped with self-contained breathing apparatus. Despite precautions taken, they expired exactly at the predicted time. His guards were initially unable to determine the cause of death until it was discovered that his oxygen tank had mistakenly been filled with the pressurized VX nerve gas used to control SCP blank. Further investigation is in progress. Hand 11. President Blank's term in office. Blankety blank blank. Notes: blank blank is currently the president of blank. Hand 12. Blank blank burger joint. July 4th, 2016. All 12 inscriptions describe non-corporate restaurants. On October the 6th, 1993, in an attempt to keep Blank's hot dogs from closing as predicted, the SCP Foundation donated an anonymous $10,000 to the restaurant on condition that it remain in business. The owner renovated and renamed it blank blank. Hand 13. Current text 2020. Predicted date January the 1st, 2022. Researchers are attempting to discern whether or not this will constitute 1032's first failure. Okay. Hand 14. Radio's visibility as an art form. October 25th, 2032. To date, all of the inscriptions have referred to mediums of art. Whether the inscription predicts the actual end of radio or merely its usage in art is unclear. 15. Effective containment. April the 9th, 2690. Notes: 15 will achieve its midnight event at approximately the same date as SCP-94 will fully engulf the Earth at its current rate of expansion. And what was 94 again? A perfectly black sphere. Okay. Hand 16. Current text Project Serapis. Predicted date November 2nd, 2016. Date expunged. And what does that lead to? SCP-2798. Hand 20. Everything is expunged except for Mexican soap opera. 21. The SCP Foundation. Predicted date expunged. Notes expunged. Hand 22. Concern for public health. July 28th, 2032. It's unclear whether this description predicts a lack of need for concern or a lack of concern in general. Okay, so the 33-second man is Euclid. 1033 is to be held in a 15 by 5 meter standard cell lined with 5 meters thick lead plating. Personnel entering the chamber must wear approved level A hazmat suits. If the routine changes or if 1033 attempts to escape, 2 guards stationed outside the chamber are to be reinforced with 8 more, all armed with Containment Kit 4 MK3, consisting of a Scar L assault rifle with underbarrel net launcher, 2 flashbang grenades, and 1 M67 fragmentation grenade. 1033 is a middle-aged Caucasian male, approximately 193 centimeters, or meters, or 6'4". He was discovered in New York, having, according to several witnesses, materialized in the middle of the road. Interviews with witnesses found that people in the area experienced a vision-encompassing white flash, accompanied by hearing a 2-second burst of static from all directions. Witnesses were administered a Class A amnestic after the completion of the interview, followed by a media blackout regarding the incident. Upon initial inspection of the site of materialization, Foundation researchers found that 1033 was emitting well over the instantaneous lethal dose rate limit of high-energy gamma, neutron, and X radiation at approximately 15,000 SV per hour? I don't know what that means. 1033 was initially contained within a shipping container surrounded by lead bricks, which was placed in his path. 1033 was subsequently moved to storage site K blank, where he now resides. In all physical aspects, he's an unremarkable, balding middle-aged male. He's dressed in a business suit and carrying a briefcase. His behavior is cyclic, with each cycle beginning approximately every 33 seconds. The following timeline is a transcription of that routine. 0 to 10 seconds, walks 30 paces forward, glancing at his watch approximately every 10 steps. 10 to 15, stops, kneels, and opens his briefcase. Inside is a single envelope marked with an unknown seal and a prepaid blank brand mobile phone, capable of sending and receiving text messages and calls. He opens the envelope and pulls out a sheet of paper marked with the words cable, a symmetric cipher, 0UUT5LMO0022, let's ruffle feathers. Types that out in a text message to the Australian mobile phone number 0404 blank blank. Investigation shows that this number has yet to be assigned to any mobile phone. At 21 seconds in, he sends the message, puts the phone and the letter back in the briefcase. At 21 to 28, they observe looking into the distance regardless of what is actually in front of him. At 25 seconds, he starts to chuckle quietly, having apparently spotted what he was looking for on the horizon. At 28 seconds, he's blown backwards 3 meters and observed writhing on the ground, screaming in apparent agony. Flesh is seen being stripped off and flying behind 1033 as other parts of him disintegrate. The injuries 1033 sustains correspond with that of a victim of a 1.5 megaton nuclear device being detonated in close proximity. After completion of this routine, 1033 immediately reappears at the start of his routine in mid-step and begins the cycle again. If any object, human or animal, stands in the path of 1033, he will make no attempt to stop and will continue his cycle, pushing whatever obstacle in his way along with him. So it sounds like people were aware of the nuclear explosion of him appearing at the end of his cycle, but not affected by it? And now the doll maker's kit. It's safe? So it's probably just a box sitting somewhere and the things inside of it are what aren't safe. 1034 is to be contained in a passcode protected safe, when not in use. Foundation personnel handling 1034 are required to wear EN388XX44 rated gloves. Whatever that means. I wonder if Google, if that means anything on Google, or if it just, let's see, rated gloves. Google, are these actually a thing? Ah, okay, cool. Also, it's Halloween, Google Doodle, woo. In the event of accidental skin contact or puncture, the affected subject must be restrained and 1034 wrested from the subject's possession. If the subject was cut at any point, 1034 must be immediately rinsed and sterilized. 1034 consists of a rusted semicircular suture needle 5 cm in cord length and a spool consisting of twine approximately 1 mm thick. If the thread is removed from the needle, a second spool appears at the end of the twine threaded through the eye of 1034. This only occurs when the needle is not under direct or recorded observation. 1034 was discovered and filed as evidence by the blank PD pursuant to the arrest of serial killer blankety blank. Agents were alerted to possible anomalous activity when a blank PD forensic agent was found dead in the same manner as the victims of blank blank, despite the latter being held in custody. Initial Foundation interviews with blank blank described 1034 and its effects in some detail, allowing for safe retrieval. They were later recruited as D-3826 and interviewed a second time. The contents of the second interview are displayed in Addendum 1034 1D3826 interview. And it's down there. When the skin or blood of a human, hereby referred to as the subject, makes contact with 1034, the subject loses all voluntary bodily loses control of all voluntary bodily functions, except facial muscles, lungs, and vocal cords. So they can breathe and they can scream, and that's it. The subject then begins suturing all facial orifices, okay, never mind the screaming, beginning with the mouth and progressing to the eyes, ears, and nose. The sutures are loose enough for the subject to breathe through his or her mouth and remain conscious during the entire process. After the process is completed, the subject returns 1034 to the location where contact was first made and remains in a sitting or standing position corresponding to the original position of the subject. The subject then begins to perspire until all moisture has been exuded from the body. If death has not already occurred, the subject dies of dehydration during this period. When handled with gloves or some other barrier between the skin and the needle, the effects do not manifest. It used to say, if the needle is forcefully removed from the possession of a subject, the subject ceases the suturing process with no recorded ill effects. Revision. If the needle has penetrated the epidermal layer of the skin, the effects will remain active until all blood has been removed from the needle. See Addendum 2 test log for more details. Bodies that have completed the entire process have a skin consistency comparable to leather and have shown significant resistance to decomposition. The skin of the bodies displays hydrophobic properties after the transformation. The skin also displays limited absorption of oils and is most receptive to redacted, which was found in large quantities in the basement of blank blank at the time of his arrest. Autopsies of the brain motor control center reveal data expunged. The bodies pose no threats aside from minor anomalous behavior noted in addendum test log. Is this from the factory? No, it's not. Okay. D3826 interview. Hello, D3826. Please sit down. Hello, Doc. How did you come in possession of SCP-1034? The needle and thread. Well, that's a funny story, Doc. I didn't always have that needle. Used to have to do things the old-fashioned way. Please answer my question. Found it on one of my work tables with a note on it. And what did the note say? Enjoy. And did I ever. I can still feel them, you know. More than the old ones. I could look at them and still hear every scream, every plead for it. That's not relevant. How did you learn the effects of 1034? I threw it to one of my girls and told her to start sewing her mouth shut. And she started doing it. That bitch was squealing like a fucking pig and she started doing it. And how did you know to give that command? Silence. Answer the question. You'd look good as a doll, Doc. I think this interview has outlived its usefulness. You'll receive your first assignment in a few hours. So he probably died. Okay. For brevity, only significant tests are displayed. 3810 instructed to pick up 1034. The 3810 complies. Immediately begins to suture his mouth shut, correlating with previous interviews with blank blank. Cries of distress before the mouth was fully stitched indicate that they didn't have control of his body during this process. Heavy perspiration begins after ears have been sewn. Remains conscious and attempts to scream. Presumed dead after approximately blank minutes after suturing began. Body ceased perspiration approximately blank minutes after death. Autopsy reveals a complete lack of water in the body. 3811. They are instructed to pick up the spool of twine. It has no effect on the subject. Spool of twine is severed from 1034 using ordinary scissors and placed into another room. They are instructed to pick up 1034's sans thread. No effect. 3811 looks away from 1034 while still holding it. Spool reappears and they begin slowing mouth in a manner consistent with the previous test. Original spool remains stationary and undisturbed. Note: review footage indicated a brief obscuration of the needle by the body of 3811. Later interviews with researchers reveal that no one was looking at the needle at the time of the thread reappearance. Subject 3826. He was handcuffed to the chair in the test room. 1034 was revealed and placed against the skin of the subject. Attempted to pull hands through handcuffs and began squealing in pain. Needle removed. Ceased attempting to pull out of handcuffs and began pleading to be released. Needle inserted into the skin. They resumed and succeeded at pulling one hand through the handcuffs, grasped the needle, and began the suturing process. Autopsy revealed severe skeletal and muscular damage to the freed wrist. I had a feeling they were going to make him do it to himself. 3817. Instructed to pick up 1034. Suturing process begins. After mouth has been sewn shut, they are restrained and 1034 removed from possession by Agent Blank. 3817 attempts to drag himself towards the agent using the hand previously holding the needle. All other limbs of the subject remain rigid. 3817 follows agent for approximately 15 minutes and shows no signs of fatigue. They are subsequently terminated. 3821. Instructed to pick up the needle, suturing process begins and is allowed to finish. After 1034 is returned and perspiration begins, researchers cut open all stitches on 3814. Perspiration immediately stops and they express extreme pain. 3821 suffers from permanent vision loss from punctures to the eyes. 3821 claimed to feel a number of people corresponding to the blank test allowed to complete. Further testing scheduled. 3821. The corpses of all previous test subjects except 3817 are arranged in the test room. 3821 is escorted to the room and immediately collapses and begins screaming. They do not respond to any commands and they are forcefully removed from the room. Okay, interview with that person. Explain what you felt when you held 1034. I couldn't stop. I couldn't. It wasn't me. I couldn't stop. Did you experience any sensations when holding it? Every stab. I could feel every stab, and I kept sewing, and I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop, and it was keeping me. Keeping you? Keeping me. It wanted to keep me. Interesting. When you entered the room with other subjects, why did you scream? I could see them, and they were screaming, and I knew it wanted me back. See them? Did you regain eyesight? I could feel them. I could feel them, and they couldn't stop either. They couldn't stop. I don't want to go back there. Please don't make me go. I don't want to go back. They repeated the phrase, "I don't want to go back," and would not answer further questions. Returned to his cell and terminated at the end of the month without incident. Okay, so that's a messed up needle. The doll maker's kit. It's literally just a needle and thread. I'm not sure how it's a doll maker's kit, and who's the doll maker? Well, now it's time for the decomposition mitten, which would go hand in hand with mittens with the doll maker's thing, probably. SCP-1035 is to be kept at Site-19's biological storage facility while research into its properties continues. Level 3 researchers assigned to the Redacted project may request the use of 1035 for research, provided that the requisition forms for D-Class personnel are filed at least 1 week prior. Materials that have been exposed to 1035 for extended periods of time are to be treated as Class 2 biohazards and incinerated. 1035 is a pink woolen mitten, probably handmade, intended for wear by a small child. Interviews with the family suggest that another mitten of similar appearance was lost up to blank months prior to discovery. Its current location and whether it shares 1035's effects is unknown. It is difficult to determine the precise date and time at which 1035 began to manifest its effects, although extrapolation from currently available medical records suggests that its effects first began during late February 19-something. 1035 first came to the attention of the Foundation as a result of a Foundation asset embedded at Blank Memorial Hospital, who at the time was investigating a possible data expunged. As a result of his position at the hospital, he was a witness to the death of Sally Blank during emergency surgery, the first recorded fatality as a result of long-term 1035 exposure. All civilians involved, including the parents of the child and medical staff, were administered varying doses of amnestics, and a cover story was spread involving a case of necrotizing fasciitis? Shortly thereafter, Agent Blank was able to safely recover 1035 from the Blank family. Any organic matter placed within 1035 begins to enter a rapidly accelerated state of decomposition. Short-term exposure to 1035, less than 2 consecutive hours, is usually not harmful to healthy human beings, as the human immune system is generally able to cope with the effects of 1035. Visual symptoms will begin to be displayed after approximately 2 hours of exposure, and by 24 hours, health complications will usually have progressed to the point that the subject's death is all but inevitable. Non-living substances, non-human life, and human subjects with pre-existing health conditions may experience different effects from exposure to 1035, especially data expunged. For a more comprehensive outline of 1035's effects and an interview of experimentation on 1035, see document blank. Exposure to 1035 is cumulative, and repeated short-term exposure can be fatal. Humans who have experienced 2 hours of exposure may require over a week to return to full health. The following chart is based on information from document blank and details the typical progression of symptoms in human subjects affected by 1035. Less than 2 hours, no visible effects, white blood cell counts in affected subjects may fluctuate slightly. Between 2 and 4 hours, They report slight tenderness in affected areas. Affected areas, especially joints, may appear to be inflamed or swollen. White blood cell count in the affected area plummets. Between 4 to 6 hours, they report discomfort and soreness when attempting to move affected areas. Small patch of the affected area may appear lighter than the surrounding areas, possibly as a result of the data expunged. Between 6 to 8 hours, open sores begin to develop, and any pre-existing injuries become greatly aggravated. Abnormal amounts of serous fluid may leak from these sores. Between 8 and 10 hours, subjects begin to display symptoms of sepsis. Toxins from the affected area, especially blank, will begin to spread to the rest of the body. Between 10 hours and blank hours, abnormal fungal growth has been observed in 70-something% of test subjects at this stage. Subjects may contract various non-fatal illnesses during this stage as a result of immune system failure. Between blank and blank hours, data expunged, and more than 24 hours, almost total necrosis of affected regions. By this point, the combined effects of septic shock and data expunged will have all but ensured the death of the subject. Blank subjects have survived late-stage exposure for as long as blank days following extraordinary life-saving work by medical personnel. Amputation is effective in preventing other body parts from experiencing the effects. Requests to test 1035 in conjunction with SCP-500 and other medical-based SCPs have been denied. Okay, supplemental material. Interview number 1. The following is a transcript from an interview that took place February blank 19-something. How are you feeling, Sally? Feel cold. Can't feel most of my arm. Will I be okay? Sure you will. I just need to ask a few questions. When did you first put on that pink mitten? I don't know. Does it matter? It does. Please answer the question. I don't know. Last week? It was a present. Grandma made it. Well, You'll be fine. Now, Sally, we're going to have to operate on your arm. It won't hurt. They won't let me see my arm, doctor. Does it look better, please? At this point, the patient began crying and would not respond to further questions. This interview is over. The medical staff here wants us to amputate. There's nothing more to learn by studying her symptoms, and there's no way that she'll be able to live with that arm. This one's for anomalous infections to sort out. Agent Blank signing off. Despite heroic life-saving attempts, Sally died due to complications from exposure to the mitten. The family was later interviewed by Foundation personnel. Nothing extraordinary was unearthed from later investigations. Surveillance of the family was lifted March blank 19-something. Interview 2. The following is a transcript from an interview with Dr. Blank, who founded the Redacted Project. Once the initial 24-hour period has passed, it is safe to say that further decay of the affected areas does not occur. In fact, the increased rate of decomposition has only been observed in objects completely enclosed within 1035. So, for example, if I stick my hand in this thing, before long my hand's going to rot off, but my shoulder should be alright. That doesn't mean, of course, that the rest of my body will be perfectly fine. Have you read up on warfare back in, say, the 19th century? One of the really big problems back then was gangrene and things like that. You know what happens when parts of you die? Not good. Oftentimes the areas hit really bad end up as basically massive bacteria breeding centers. It's not a problem you want to deal with. That doesn't even take into account the way that thing speeds everything up. You think that Clostridium perfringens is bad? Try schistosoma. Hell, we've identified close to 100 new parasites with this. Requesting more D-Class personnel for further experimentation. There's a lot we can learn from this. Addendum. Since the writing of this article, blank additional objects of clothing have been recovered by Foundation agents bearing similar properties to 1035. These objects are awaiting SCP classification and are to be designated 1035-2 through blank. The original instance of 1035 will be redesignated 1. The Redacted Project has been tasked with examining the properties, applications, and source of 1035 instances. Okie dokie then. So, that about does it for this episode. I was considering going further than 5 entries, which is why I was being non-specific at the beginning of the episode, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and stop with the normal amount. So, in the next episode, we'll be checking out Nkandi, Rotbolt, an RCA cable, the Gathering Doll, and Daniel. If you like this video, a like and a subscribe will be groovy. If you didn't, you don't need to do either one of those things. I guess I should probably start mentioning the bell at this point since everybody else is, but I don't know. If you want to click the bell, you can do that as well. Hey, that rhymes. And I'll see you in the next one. Later.